So I was talking with a guy named Alan about food and things, but we got on the topic of kava. Kava is a very, very mild drug used socially in I think, the South Pacific. And also it's grown in Hawaii. It's a root and has a very mild kind of a sedative or euphoric effect. So join us as we chat about kava. He's been into it for quite a while.
I drink kava regularly. Do you know what kava is?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think kava is fun.
Oh, and if you're interested in the video about food in general, discussion of food in general, we'll put a link here.
Kava is a standard for me.
Yeah.
I go most of the year. I drink during the holidays, but most of the year I go and I don't drink alcohol. And it's kava most nights.
That's cool.
Some nights stronger strains and heavier brew.
And do you buy this in a powdered form?
Yep, I try to buy a very fine grind, and I prep it for. Takes all in all like 2 hours because I kind of let it strain through a very small bag or a T-shirt or something along those lines.
So you make like a coffee tea kind of thing with it.
I make the drink, the traditional drink, yeah.
Okay.
Kneading the bag and pushing as much of the kava lactones as you can out of it.
Kava lactones. I did not know that.
Lactones. They are are my medicine.
Back when I lived in Seattle, kava was kind of a fad for us for a little while.
Yep.
And so we were trying different ways to eat it. We were mixing it in like chocolate ice cream and things and trying to figure out, because it doesn't taste very good, at least in my experience. Do you do anything that makes it taste good?
Just putting a little chocolate in there is great.
Yeah.
That's the best thing to do. You can also, I will sometimes do a big pot on low heat, throw the kava in there with the water. I'll do just a little bit of coconut oil, because there's always been this argument that the kava lactone is not water soluble. So you're not ever making a tea. Nothing is diffusing into the water.
Right.
So you're basically drinking mud, and if you leave it long enough, it will settle. But there is this argument that if you add a little bit of fat or oil, you will get some diffusion into that with a touch of heat. So I throw that in there. I don't know whether it does anything. I can't say one way or the other after years and years of doing this.
The kava tones are fat soluble, you think?
They are alcohol soluble and to a point fat soluble.
Okay.
But there's been a ton of amateur research done on this, and nobody can say one way or the other.
Okay.
We're still on the fence over that, but you can also throw other things in as well. I like to do spearmint and chamomile, because if I'm drinking kava, it's the end of the day. It's like the nightcap for someone that drinks alcohol.
Yeah. Now, my experience with kava was that it was very, very light effect, very, very mellow, not overwhelming at all.
Yeah.
And so I kind of enjoyed it because we would drink it and then we just kind of sit around chatting.
Yes.
You know.
Yep. Play a game of chess. Whatever it is you do, it will be slightly enhanced, but it doesn't work for people that are looking to get intoxicated.
Right. Yeah. You wouldn't even, like, if you drank some beers, you wouldn't even notice the kava.
Right. Exactly. And the more you drink it, the more you realize when it's hit you. You're like, you get that and you're not intoxicated, but you no longer have your normal anxiety. All of the worries from the day are kind of gone, and you're just experiencing now, relaxed, whatever it is you do. I like to do art, focus on my artwork.
Have you introduced this to your friends at all?
I try. It's a rough thing to sell. It tastes horrible. And when you describe it, they think they're going to get fucked up. Yeah. Right. People are there for the party, and it's like, well, it's not that.
Yeah.
Think of it more as an herbal supplement, but don't take the supplements because they're bad.
Right. The interesting thing we've been doing here is making passiflora tea, because I have
Mhm.
passion fruit.
Yeah.
So we've been making a tea with that, and it has kind of a similar effect. It's very, very mellow. It's kind of makes you feel sleepy a little bit. In fact, it's not as much a mild euphoric as it is just a sleep aid, really. So it kind of just makes you tired.
Yeah.
But we still have to do some more experimenting with it. It also does not taste good.
It doesn't taste good.
No, it's not.
I've grown accustomed to kava. I like the numb feeling. I just like the entire experience. I've and not all kavas are created equal. Um, every strain I've ever gotten has been very different in flavor and effect. Some will dehydrate you and dry you out. Others don't seem to really do that to me. Um, some are earthier, some are more numbing, more bitter. I like the more numb, bitter ones. You can have some that are more body sedating. That if you're suffering from something, a physical pain is good for that. I like the headier strains; they're good for anxiety. Get that just kind of that mild head buzz. You're not high or anything, but you don't have that pain anymore.
That's very interesting. So you've ordered it from lots of different places.
Yeah, that's what I do. Is I try it from here, try it from here, try it from here.
Have you ever written down kind of reviews on different ones?
I haven't done it yet. There is actually a ton of information if you go to the Kava forums,
Okay.
kavaforums.com, and that's where I go. I look at what other people are trying. They also do acetone tests to make sure that they are what they call a noble kava. What you want to stay away from is anybody that's going to try to cut it with the stem. You want mostly the laterals, the small roots.
Okay.
And if you get into something that's poor quality, like especially like the herbal supplements, gel caps, you're going to get some stem, and you're going to get that central root, and
Right.
and that's bad for your liver. That's bad news. You don't want that.
Okay. And I'm also assuming it would be less sustainable to harvest the main root. You would want the smaller ones because then you're not killing the plant.
You're tearing the plant out of the ground, I believe.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah, it's done once it gets to the tree.
I wonder if there would be a way to grow it. This is the kind of experiments I like to do. I wonder if there'd be a way to grow it in something where you could just harvest the lateral roots and then
keep it going.
Place the dirt back in so that those will grow again and you're not losing the plant.
Well, I can't do it where I am. I bet you could do it there.
Maybe. It's a little cold here. I think it comes from Polynesia, and they grow it in Hawaii as well.
Hawaii, it's known as awa. Fiji, Solomon Islands, Vanuatu. The further into the South Pacific you get, and that's where I'm picking an island, and I'm saying I'm going to travel here this month, and I get a pound or a half a pound from there. The Solomon Islands is the stuff that I really like, from the Black Sands, but it's not for everybody. And I do have some friends that will do it with me once in a while, and we'll just kind of sit around and get 4 people and like a quiet board game. Mm-hmm. And drink some kava. Next thing you know, you're talking about the universe. It just kind of takes off.
Like, for example, what's an example of a good board game that would be kava compatible?
Kava compatible. Blockus or Quarkle. Something light like Bananagrams. Like even like a Pictionary or something like that is gonna work. If you play music, that's my favorite.
Cool. Well, it's kind of nice to see kava ritual getting implemented in the U.S. environment culturally.
Yeah. Well, I went down to I was 17. I went to a kava bar in South Florida, and I believe that was the first one in Boca Raton, Florida, the first kava bar. And I loved it. I loved the atmosphere. He had amazing aquariums, and you got to see all of the tribal masks and the artwork and everything. It was so cool. And we would just sit there, and they had board games there, so that's what we would do. And it was like chilling in a bar as a 17-year-old, and I enjoyed it so much that I did bring it up back here. I bought a bag from him and flew back on the plane with it, and then started ordering from him. But early on, I didn't have a very fine grind from him. And I didn't know anything about prep. I just kind of wasted it. But sometimes you just put some chips in your mouth and chew on them and get a little bit of the effect.
Yeah, I think I'd have to I'd have to do a little more reading to learn about how to process it. Like, would it be worth it to make for example, if it's fat soluble, would it be good with eggnog?
Yeah, I'm sure it would.
Yeah.
Yeah. I say combine as many herbs in with it as you can. And that's what I've been experimenting with lately. I'm looking for that combination that just does something magical, because I don't think much has been done as far as experimenting with this root.
Right.
It's been ground up and left alone. And there's a company that makes candy. You can buy Kava candy. It's a lemon balm, chamomile, and Kava, and they have a press, and it tastes horrible. I don't mind it.
Yeah. So what's Kava cost?
It's around 40 to 50 a pound. I guess you could go up to 60 probably. And for a half pound, you're looking around $20 or so.
Okay, and how long will that last you in the way you use it?
In the way I use it, that lasts me a month for a pound.
And you use it a lot.
This is daily.
Yeah.
So
that's on par with coffee, I would think, or something.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Way less than alcohol is if you're coming home and having a couple beers.
Right.
And you can get a lot out of it if you take the time to prep it. If you do just a simple strain, you're probably not going to get as much of an effect out of it. But sometimes that's what you have to do for time.
Yeah. Now, that'd be a tough thing to test, because I'm very into testing things here. I have an environment where I'm isolated from most culture. Mm-hmm. And so I have the opportunity to really try things out in a theoretically, hopefully smart way. But I don't know, like I was thinking a lot about this with the Passiflora, I don't know how to test it. I don't have the scientific equipment to break down all the chemicals and actually measure how much of something is in it. Mm-hmm. So the best I could probably do would be to use a process and standardize as much as possible. You have a couple different processes available, and then give that to someone and have them rate on a scale of 0 to 10, mm-hmm. how much they feel it or not, and what the feeling seems like. Collect a whole bunch of those reports, and not telling anyone what kind of kava was, what the process was, or anything, and then get enough of those to see if there was any trend. Mm-hmm. For people who drank it this amount in an eggnog, or people who had this way.
I think once you ask people to start looking for the effect, it can disappear.
Right. It's so subtle.
Strange. It's very strange in that way.
Yeah. I think you're right. I mean, it would be the same as the Passiflora, and I had thought about it in reference to that. It's such a minor effect. You would have to get so much data that my guess is that the data wouldn't show any pattern hardly at all, because also you've got the psychosomatic effect of something as you learn what it is. Mm-hmm. And each person's very different. Their own mood is different. Their own body chemistry is different. And so I just feel like there's so many factors. It would be really a tough test.
Yeah. And fasting has a lot to do with it. If you go all day without eating much, and then you drink your kava, and then say 2 hours after your a heavy session, you have a light meal, you've now kind of slowed things down, and it's going to take longer to get through you. And having fasted, that's pretty much what's in your stomach. And that's kind of what I do during the week. I'll drink a lot of mate and kava, and then mate during the morning, switch to kava afternoon, and then have my amazing salad. And then
So another kava question for you. So let's say I want to get crazy, because I am, mm-hmm. and I want to do too much kava, and maybe do it in the morning, so I have plenty of energy.
Okay.
And I want to do just tons of kava. How would that work?
Knock yourself out. It's a fun day.
Yeah.
You might get kind of groggy, but chances are you'll be sitting there and you'll be like, okay, what do I do now? Like, and your mind, you'll start you're a creative guy. It's gonna spark a project, and you're gonna start working on a project, and you're just gonna be relaxed all day. I have tried to abuse it, and the only thing that's ever happened is dehydration. If you stop drinking kava, you'll continue to pee and pee and pee until, because it's a diuretic, it's going to push everything out, and then
Okay.
you can wake up, the next day after a good 8 hours sleep and be pretty dehydrated. So at the end, you kind of switch to water like you would if you were drinking alcohol.
Okay. So I'd probably prehydrate. So I'd drink too much water beforehand.
Yep.
Maybe start at about 10 and stuff of eating the kava. Probably eat the powder. I mean, in something, but I would actually probably not just make a tea, and I would probably ingest the whole powder.
You're talking about a toss and wash.
I don't know that term.
Toss and wash. You take the powder, toss it in your mouth, and then chug water and get it down. I would suggest doing either a light strain, get it into the water, just make it almost muddy, like very thick. You can get away with that. You want to also watch your throat too, because if you do have any splinters, that can be a bad experience.
Oh, in the powder itself.
Yeah, you can get a splinter in your throat that way. So you do want to have at least some form of strain.
We could probably sift it and just use the smallest powders or something.
Yeah, and you can go with if you're going to do that, go with micronized. It's a little bit more expensive, but you can actually get such a fine grind that they call it micronized.
That's a brand or a style of doing it?
It's a style of grind. They have medium, mild, or medium, small, and micro. And a lot of the companies are doing that now.
Well, that's great advice.
I'll give you a link to the Kava forums. I'm hanging out on there all the time with these guys, just kind of soaking up knowledge. It's a cool place. They've helped a lot of people, because people that tend to, if you have an addiction of any kind, Kava can just completely transform your lifestyle.
Well, yeah, I mean, because it has, I think I tend to think it has very low abuse potential, right, but it still has the ritual. Exactly. And that's part of addiction. So if you replace the bad rituals you have with a good ritual, that could end up as a net win easily.
And there's a bit of a reverse tolerance where either the kava lactones are building up in your system over time, and it can easily be released. It could be that, or it could just be that you know what you're looking for.
Right.
You can feel it.
So you say that the kavatones build up in your system?
They could. We're not sure.
Okay.
I don't think there's proof either way on that either. The research on this is just guys like you and me, because they're interested and they want to figure it out.
Right. I'd love to see more scientific attention on it.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Also, it sounds like if there's such differences between different products, there probably are actually, the plants are probably vary quite widely as well. And so you could start to select plants that have more kavatones and breed for that.
Right. Yep, I agree. If the amount of effort and energy had been put into it like the cannabis industry, you would have seen the same kind of things happen.
Right, but it isn't strong enough to get really popular, probably.
That's exactly it.
Unless it gets popular as a cultural thing. Like, you mentioned this experience in a kava bar, when you're 17. So you had this intense experience at a very impressionable age. Right. It gave you an emotional attachment to it as well.
Yeah, that's what it is. I will get flooded with happy, relaxed memories, and it just sends me to my happy place.
Yeah, and of course, most people have never even heard of kava, so they don't have that.
Yeah. And I tell a lot of people about it, especially on Blab. I'm usually sitting here with a big glass of kava. I'm doing tea right now, but I still have some upstairs. I might go make some up.
Yeah, well, I'll be putting this video up on YouTube, so you're educating people right now.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah, I'll keep working on the passiflora because I can actually grow that here.
Now, what is that?
I'm not sure if I could. What's that?
What? Say that again. Passiflora?
I'm going to keep working it's passion flower.
Oh, okay.
And you just make tea with the leaves.
Yep.
What I also like about that is you don't have to kill the plant, so it's very sustainable.
Okay.
I have one passiflora vine that goes up like, I don't know, 60 feet or so into a tree.
Okay.
And so it's really easy to grow.
Is that something that we could get up here and harvest it and get something going in the summertime, like a seasonal garden?
Maybe. Where did you say your location is?
I'm up in Vermont, so we have pretty long
That's pretty cold.
Yeah.
That's pretty cold.
What about indoors?
Certainly. In a greenhouse, no problem.
Okay.
Or indoors, maybe. It does like a lot of sun, so you would have to look up passiflower culture and see where it likes to live.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't think it's probably quite as interesting as kava. I think it's more of a sedative. Yep. I don't think it has quite the subtlety of kava because kava seems like it almost has a mild euphoric to it, euphoric effect.
It does. It certainly does. They call it a mild hallucinogenic, but I think that's a stretch.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. From my experience.
Can I order a tea? Do you have a recommendation of just one I could just buy it and try it before I decide to?
I will try and look that up and include a link in the video to it. I have only ever had passion flower tea that I made myself.
Okay.
And I've made it both from fresh leaves, and I've also dried the leaves in a solar dehydrator, and then I've made tea with that. And again, I can't really tell the difference. And to be honest, I'm not that sensitive to this stuff. So I need a more sensitive person to be a tester.
Okay.
Because I mean, I just dump when I eat food, I just dump it in my mouth. I just don't care most of the time. And so anything that requires really subtle sensitivity, some other people seem to have that, and they'd be better for doing that.
Yeah.
Or they just make up more shit. I don't know.
A routine is what I decide. Is you have the kava the first night, you don't. Whatever it is, a tea, anything, you don't place any judgment the first night, even the second. But after doing it for a week or two, you start to build up a baseline of what this is going to do. And then you start looking into it further.
Right.
And again, that has a lot to do with your diet throughout the day when it comes to the end of the day tea.
But also there you're getting the psychosomatic effect because you're learning what the effect is, which is why people can get drunk off beer that has no alcohol.
That's probably what happens to me with kava.
Which is great, because then the drug you're doing is having less actual physical impact on your body.
Right. Yeah, almost.
And it's actually affecting you via the ritual and via the self-creating your state of mind that you enjoy.
I think you hit the nail on the head there. That's pretty much what it is.
Yeah, which is great, because a lot of drugs actually do, have a really negative effect on your body, like alcohol, for example. And so getting too into alcohol is probably a bad idea.
It is. It really
which makes me realize I don't have any, and I wish I did, but oh well.
And that's what happens every time, and that's what kava allows me to do, is not be like, oh man, I wish I had some alcohol. It would be really nice to have a beer right now, because that's what it is. And then one beer will turn into 3 or 4, and then if it's any more than that, I'm just doing self-harm at that point. Yeah.
Have you ever thought of having a kava holiday almost that you bring your friends over to? And so you add kava as a ritual, and it could either be a traditional ritual or one that you design.
Yep.
And then introducing it to your friends as part of kind of, a solstice thing or I don't know what.
Yeah. That sounds good. Do it in the summertime with a bonfire, or do it in the winter time indoors. Either way,
either one or both. You could make it a solstice thing on both the solstices.
Yep. Yeah, that sounds fun. Sorry about my pupils; they come and go with the green screen. And
I think it's cool looking.
It's a little freaky, but
little bit demonic, but that's all right.
Is the cheer? That is the cheers. You raise your shell and say "bula," and then afterwards, when you're experiencing that bitter feeling, it's a slow clap. with the cupped hands. A very, very slow,
Okay.
relaxed clap.
Yeah, I love the idea of cultural fusion. So it'd be great to study what they do there, where these traditions come from, and then mix that in with your own culture. That'd be awesome.
That's yeah. I've been researching this since since that young age. So I think it did strike me at an important time.
Yeah.
Well, what a cool guy. Fun to talk about that. I hope you've enjoyed joining us and learning a little bit about kava. Maybe you'll get some of your own kava and try it out. I haven't had any since probably 20 years ago. And maybe I'll get some and enjoy some kava again.
So I never picked up your name.
I am Adam.
Adam from Homeworld Arts.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
It's a little indie game company, and make hats and T-shirts, and just any artwork I do is under that. So.
And you make games?
Yes, yeah. Android and iOS apps. A little homegrown app development business.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
I'll have to look that up. Well, Adam, thanks a lot for talking to me about food and apparently about kava as well. That was a very fun conversation. It's been nice getting to know you.
Thanks for having me.